one interesting thing, since you mentioned his death, we have a book here about the 27 Club. It's interesting that Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Jim Morrison, Brian Jones, and Janis Joplin, they all died at the age of 27, and so did Jimi Hendrix. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a coincidence.
Jimmy was like a couple months away from being 28, so I always imagine, what if he would have died after November and December? He would have been 28. I think that would have killed that whole narrative, and back then, a lot of Black people didn't live that long, but for him to die so early, I think that kicked it off, and then they kind of pieced it together with some of these coincidences. But a lot of these rockers or whatever, they were targeted by the government. So I don't know whether their early death had to do with their hard living, fast living, combined with wanting to take some of them out. But
yes, I know that there are some allegations. There was a documentary called A Perfect Murder, which was allegedly pointing at Mike Jeffries, who at one time I think was managing him. And supposedly he was taking up, to I understand, 40% of Jimmy's earnings, as well as the Animals, Eric Burdon and the Animals. And he didn't want to renew his contract. And so there was allegations that maybe there was some foul play there. I don't know.
Well, just briefly, there was a lot of foul play just surrounding, things that kind of make people question whether it's Jimmy's lungs being filled with red wine, whether it's Monica Danneman, another suspicious character, and I think in the 90s or 2000s.
The German figure skater.
Right. She all of a sudden wanted to kill herself for some reason. That's kind of suspicious. And just so many people. Devin, was it Wilson? Devin, jumping off a building. I mean, a lot of these people, and Michael Jeffries, some sort of weird plane crash where only way they could identify him was by his jewelry. And, there was never really any, certainty about his body being identified or anything like that.
Jimi Hendrix was allegedly kidnapped by some kind of mobsters in London and held, no one knew where he was for 2 days or so, or 3 days.
I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimy Bleu, wasn't that up there at Woodstock where he was kidnapped? It was actually in New York City, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was the second time, or I believe it was the second time, because there was one time he was kidnapped and he was roughed up very badly, so much so it scared him. And he gave a lot of his personal items to his protege, Velvet Turner. And basically he went into hiding for a while.
But why did they rough him up? For what reason?
That one, I don't know, but the one that you were referring to, consensus is that it was a scare tactic by Mike Jeffries to get, Hendrix to act right, things like that. We really don't know. The thing is about Mike Jeffries, when I spoke to Chaz Chandler, that was his one regret with Jimi Hendrix, was that he had to deal with Mike. But he said without Mike, he wouldn't have been able to get Jimmy to the platform that he was at. Mike had the connections to do that, because especially racism, we think racism is bad today. Yikes. Back then, how did Jimi Hendrix do what he did?
Right.
Especially getting on stage with two white guys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, my next point would be, was he kidnapped? Because I understand that when Jimmy had formed quickly the Band of Gypsies using Billy Cox and Buddy Miles, he felt a different type of feeling and music was coming through him. He kind of wanted to, I understand, remain with those two guys instead of the original members of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. But Mike Jeffries said, no, Jimmy, come on, man. You are the Jimi Hendrix Experience. This is what's making the millions of dollars. We're not going to change. And so do you think that might have been some of the tension that created some of these kidnappings and beatings, roughing him up?
Man. We don't know the inside deal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're outsiders. We can only speculate on that. It could be. I've heard. I'm very close with Billy Cox, very close to Juma, who's my mentor. And yeah, I hear different things, but we really don't know. To me, it's not important.
Okay, that's cool.
You know what I mean? We can sit up here all night and go, oh, maybe he did that. And also, you have to understand too. I hear a lot of, well, Jimi Hendrix said he wanted to blah 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 blah. Yeah, when he was stoned out of his brain, You know what I mean? On a certain day, and then the next day he changed. Jimmy was very temperamental. All of his girlfriends will attest to that fact, where he changed his mind every day. Well, I think I want to do this. Oh, gee, I want to blah, blah. Come on, let's go here. He was like that.